We are getting older, we're not who we used to be. You and I are growing further, you don't really talk to me.
Welcome everyone, we're here with episode number 1 actually of our alumni podcast, and I'm here with Joseph, an ex-One Degree student, and we're going to chat a little bit about his time at One Degree and what he's up to right now and what he's looking forward to in the future, and really just get into a great chat. So Joe, hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. So good to have a chance to have a little catch up with you and give you a chance to look back and something that was almost 10 years ago. I can't believe it. And just chat about some of the things that you got up to during One Degree, and then between One Degree and now, all the sort of things you've been up to. So I really just want to dive straight into it. So I wonder if you could just start off by telling us, when did you do One Degree, and what was it like in sort of that time of your life back then?
Yeah, let's dive into it. I'm quite excited to be doing this because I think when I look back at this, I'm like, I've had enough time to reflect on it. It's almost 10 years. It's quite amazing. I think at the time it was 2015 when I did it, and I had only been in the UK for 2 years by then, or just under 2 years. It was quite overwhelming to kind of go through this whole thing, and when we first heard about One Degree, I thought this it's just an extracurricular thing, or just an extra help for maths and English. So I think that initially there was a bit of an ego kind of going like, oh, I don't really want to be doing this. I don't know how I feel about needing help. But I did with my English definitely, and maths. I think I went through One Degree and I got to learn that it wasn't just to help me because I'm struggling, it's just to help me to get better. I was good enough at maths, and One Degree helped me sort of revise and keep doing better to achieve my goals. So it wasn't just about the fact that I was struggling or anything. It was an interesting time, and I remember it with good memories.
You've introed that so well and so nicely. So for those of you who hearing about One Degree for the first time, or this is all new to you, One Degree is an academic and personal development mentoring program which has been around since 2009. Now Joseph was a student in 2015, and to give you some context, this was the first program that we actually launched in an extended program which started in the autumn time, around about sort of October, November, and went all the way through until June. And for Joseph's program back in 2015, it actually ended up starting in 2014, going through to 2015, and ended up lasting 25 sessions long. So it's one of the longest programs we've done for our in-person program. And I've got so many good memories of Joseph and all his peers and all the other students of that year. So yeah, really looking forward to going back and finding out more about this. So Joe, you gave such a good intro there, and I wonder, you mentioned that you were a bit hesitant going in. If you looking back now at that hesitancy, did you honestly feel like you needed the help and needed the support? Or were you really just, taking the teachers' leads that sort of were encouraging you to join a program like One Degree?
If I understand the question correctly, I think now I understand that it is something that I needed. I think if I go back in time in that moment, I would still have that hesitancy. It's I think the first impression, the first thing you hear about it, and when you sort of get recommended to do this thing, initially there's something in you that goes like, oh, like, what is it? And maybe that was different for me because I think growing up I was always quite good at academically. I think I was doing quite well with my grades, but when I moved to the UK it was quite a big change. Different language, different culture, everything is different, and yeah, it took a little while to adjust to. So I think going in that, it helped me so much. And I think I've spoken about the academic side of it, but I think there's so much that goes on in One Degree. There's more than academics. I think it helped me so much build my confidence, and it fit in, really. It helped me settle in quite a lot, really.
Did you think a lot of that hesitance was to do because it was on a Saturday, or would it have been the same regardless of what day of the week or times that it was taking place?
Both. I think on a Saturday, I remember at some point I joined I think a Sunday league team or a youth team. I think they train people up and then they play in competitions. Obviously, I don't remember the name. I was I struggled with names of like places and stuff because it's too much for me to learn. But yeah, and I sort of had to give this up because the training was at the same time in 1 degree, so it was something that I felt like I needed to make a sacrifice, and sort of been hesitant at what I would get from 1 degree. Is it really worth the time that I put in? Is that something that I actually need? And I think these were questions that I was generally asking, but not knowing what this is all about. But yeah, I think the fact that it's on Saturday, it's a commitment, so it makes you sort of think whether you do or not.
And then once you actually got into it, and you're a few sessions in, did you start to settle into the program and feel like this could be something that could really help you and be worthwhile, or did it take quite a long time for you to start to see those benefits?
It's to be totally honest, and I don't actually remember, but how I feel about this is that I felt like I was in it from the get-go. I felt like, I'll give this a shot. Let's see what's in it. I think I didn't enjoy the English sessions as much because I actually struggled with English. So I actually had to put in more work and try to face the challenge that I'm coming across. But with time, I managed to settle in that and enjoy it more as I go on. So that was, I think, the thing that took me the most. But everything else around it, I think from the start, I think maybe the first few sessions, I remember we were doing this like military training sort of exercise, and someone came and we did all of this, and it was so exciting. Everyone was like, oh, especially because it was all boys school. And then all the boys get a bit competitive at the time, and you're like, oh, I can do this, I can do that. So that was a great way to bring everyone in and have it, add something to that. It's not just you doing extra revision.
I remember that so well, and it was the first time we actually did that kind of initiation training, that kind of that active sort of stuff at the start of the program, and you guys loved it. I remember it went down so well. And just to give everyone a bit of context now, 1 Degree works with various different schools, and there could be co-ed schools, could be boys schools, could be girls schools, whatever. And in this particular year, and for a couple of years following Joseph's year, we were at this particular school, which was a boys only school. It did sort of, it gives a different vibe to the program, I suppose, when you've got a boys school or girls school, whether it's co-ed. And I think this kind of the aspect that we designed for you guys, it made it a really fun start, doing some of these military aspects at the start, and it gave you guys a lot of opportunities to do some games and sports and all that in the afternoons, over lunchtime and everything, which was great. And yeah, it was a really good group, and I think you weren't the only one that sort of bought into it quite quickly. We were very strict with you. I do remember that there was a lot of commitment that was needed to make, and you already mentioned the sacrifices, which it was amazing that at such a young age you were willing to do that, and sacrifice something in order to get reward back. And I guess what I wanted to say as well, and I'm so glad you brought it up about struggling a little bit more with English than maths. Now, you were actually such a typical student in a 1 Degree sense, whereas not all 1 Degree students are struggling with all subjects or struggling with the main 2 subjects being English and maths. Most of them actually are struggling with one or the other, and then they've got some external factors which are setting them back slightly. And in your case, you only been in the country a couple of years, and that meant that you were a great candidate for 1 Degree. You were struggling a little bit with English, but your maths was actually okay, wasn't it? You were actually doing okay.
Yeah. I think I was. Maths was one of the things that helped me get the confidence academically, because I think when I first, joined the school, I really struggled with science. I struggled with English. I struggled with all the subjects because the language was different. Even maths was taught in English, so it was different, but again, the way I see maths is its own language, so it was easy for me to work it out quickly. And so I think I didn't really struggle with maths as much. I liked maths, I enjoyed it. I actually, maybe I'm moving ahead now, but I did maths at uni, so that was my degree. So yeah, that was something I think we can get to. I think that's
I love how you said, maths is its own language, because it's such a universal language, maths, isn't it? And that's so nice that you said that. And it's and also we always try and say that if we can help you with those two fundamental subjects, maths and English, they can kind of ricochet and have a knock-on effect into all the other subjects in helping you. And obviously English is such a key one. So did you find through, or as you're progressing through One Degree, that your English was steadily improving? You were starting to break down things a little bit easier?
Yes. I think it wasn't sort of a continuous sort of growing line. It was up and down, but overall it was getting better. I think what I struggled with the most is understanding the exam style, because it wasn't just like about writing a paragraph or a topic that you talk about and you go from there. It was more of understanding the language techniques and how you utilize that into your writing, how you express yourself, and understand the writer's intentions and all these things. And I remember there's one sheet that one of the teachers at One Degree that created, and it was beautifully written, and how it was sort of building from one point to another, and you could literally write more than one thing on each of those language techniques. So I sort of learned them off by heart to memorize that for the exam. But what I didn't realize is that by doing that, it made me sort of understand it more and spot it quicker. So as I went into the exam, I remember looking at something and I spotted the language technique, and I'm writing what I remember. And I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. this leads to that. Okay, I can then understand so much more. And I felt very confident with my English going into my next chapter, which was like A-levels, and going to a different school, going to a different community that didn't know me when I first moved here. And I think it was like, okay, let's start fresh. And I was like, oh, I want to see this. And I think it was quite exciting to see that after the progress that I've made through One Degree as well.
I love those sort of light bulb moments example that you've just given. That's so cool. And did you find you started having those kind of moments more and more? And you think you can kind of connect those kind of light bulb moments with One Degree in other areas as well?
Yeah, many areas, to be honest. I think One Degree was very, very important, very vital in my life. I think the way I look at One Degree is I've got a lot of sort of passion towards the organization, everything that you've all done, and especially you and all the effort that you put in. Because at the time I just moved to a new country, and it was a time of like formative years for me. I was, I think, 15, 16 around the time. Moving to a whole different country, so I'm always thinking what I came here with can't be the way that can't continue, and maybe I could be slightly different in the way people engage, the mannerisms, the way they talk, the way they engage. So all of these things I wanted to learn, and I think what helped me is spending time on the Saturday, because it wasn't like your day-to-day school lessons, going from one lesson to another with one teacher. Everyone is talking very loudly or whatever. We were split into smaller groups, so we were able to do the work, and then when we all rejoined together, we were just messing about and getting to know the guys and getting to know everyone there and speaking to them. So yeah, that was quite important, and I think there are many things that I remember. There's one person that came, and he was giving us a speech or a talk about first impressions and how you present yourself. And then when he was saying that the first impressions are made within the first 10 seconds of meeting someone, I was like, oh wow. And then learning how to build the network and learning how to do certain things. And now I sort of look back and I feel like I should have taken that up more, because there's one thing in particular that I look back and I feel like that was such a great opportunity missed when I think you managed to get a 2-day work experience at LinkedIn. And I didn't know what LinkedIn was at the time. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I think it came to the time I didn't really, I think I pulled out quite late. And I was now I look back at this and I'm like, oh my God, I think just did that.
Did you not manage to do that in the end? Did you pull out in the end? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think I did, yeah. So yeah, I look back at this and I'm like, wow, what an opportunity that was offered to me, and I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how important it was. I was like, oh, I can't be asked.
It's so strange how, you know, when you're in the thick of things, you don't always see how valid an opportunity can be when it's right in front of you, and then when you look back, you think, oh wow, that was, you know, such a great chance. And I suppose one of the things I always think that I hope that students get out of after completing one degree is that, you know, that's not going to be the last time they're going to make the most of an opportunity like one degree, and it'll encourage them to do a lot more things like that in the future when they can see how useful and beneficial it can be. I mean, you know, now that you're looking back at it and we're chatting about this and you're realizing, you know, even that one missed opportunity with LinkedIn, do you think that makes you feel like much more of a yes man moving forward? You know, like you want to say yes to more opportunities when they go your way?
Yeah, 100%. It made me sort of, first of all, made me appreciate all the opportunities that I took advantage of and showed up. Very grateful for having them. I think it like I look at it with, I don't really look at it with such a sharp regret, if that makes sense. I don't look at it with you know, and get sad and disappointed. I think there's a bit of disappointment, but it is what it is. Then I look at the positives and they make me appreciate it more. So now when something comes my way, I'm grateful, and I try to take the most of whatever comes my way, and I stay grateful for it, because I think actually like one degree coming my way was something that I did understand at the time, but the more I look back on, the more I understand how instrumental that was to my character, to the person who I am now.
Amazing. And so as you sort of work your way through your GCSE exams and then eventually getting, you know, that scary, you know, results letter and in sort of August, you know, how did that feel? Did you feel that you actually then achieved much more than you probably thought you did? And did it really sort of even enhance your confidence even more? You know, having seen you've just gone through this long program, a tough GCSE year, and then got, you know, some good results. How was that? How are all those feelings coming together?
It's so fun to look back at that time, because you know, around that time it was like huge. It was so big. I remember it was all these feelings where it was so big. But I look at, you know, you've been through different experiences after, and you go through different things in life, and you're like, okay, it wasn't the biggest thing in life, but when I look back at these feelings, and I think the confidence that I had when I was applying for schools, I think it was something that I'm gonna always be proud of, because when I was applying for schools, I was looking at better schools than I think I could have got, you know. So I was like, okay, this school is asking for AAB. I was like, why not? I'll apply for this or apply for that. And I was aiming to do the subjects that I wanted. I was aiming to do maths, A-levels, and I think I was doing physics and economics, and it was quite interesting for me to pick difficult subjects, I think, which would involve a lot of English. Like economics, for example, is something that I didn't think I would be doing. And learning in a different language than Arabic, so it's getting to that. So when it came to the exam period and going through the exams, I felt quite confident, I think, achieving these grades, and at the end I got the grades that I wanted. I think a couple maybe were lower than I wanted, but overall I went to one of the schools that picked one of the 5 I think you get to choose. So I had a good chance. I wasn't even the lowest, it was like the second or third option, so I was always very good.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about then, after 1 degree and the next few years of your life, going into A levels and then, moving beyond that. So tell us what that journey's been like. I suppose not up to the present right now, but just maybe those few years after 1 degree.
I think it was exciting. I think my confidence was quite high going to a new school. I think I went there knowing that I can do it and feeling that this is not new to me anymore. I can do this. And I did I think I picked maths, economics, physics, and I was a bit cheeky and I picked Arabic as a second language. So it was always I didn't know that I could do this. So it was ridiculous that they let me do that as an A level. So yeah, I did both AS and A2 Arabic the first year, got that out of the way. And yeah, maths I always enjoyed, but it was challenging in A levels. I think physics and economics they were very challenging. And I think in that school, after a little while, I struggled a little bit because I didn't really make a lot of friends there, and I played football and I played really bad the first game as goalkeeper, so everything went like haywire. Everyone's like, "Oh, that's like the shit goalkeeper." Oh, sorry, that's the terrible goalkeeper. So that sort of knocked my confidence a little bit. But it was an important experience for me to kind of go through that, to feel like an outsider or I don't fit in at school, and it kind of made me sort of understand how difficult it could have been for other people that have grew up at school where from a young years or that most of the time at school they have a good time and great time, and it sort of now it gets me to look back at this and like, well, I had such a great time at most schools. This one, it wasn't a terrible time, it wasn't bad at all, but like I didn't enjoy it the most. I didn't make so many friends. I wasn't feeling myself really in that school, but I did well in my exams. I did my A levels quite well. I worked during the summer and Christmas breaks and whatever. I worked at Winter Wonderland on one of the rides, and that was quite exciting. I've seen a lot of people from my school. They would come and get on the rides. They'd be like, "Oh my god, that's cool!" And then that was it was a time that I enjoyed the most. Doing these different experiences.
Cool. And what about some of the jobs that you've done, over the years and all that? I know you've been up quite a lot and all that. Talk through some of those sort of career highlights so far.
Yeah. Okay. So I have worked as a commie waiter, so working in restaurants. That was a great highlight. I think most people have worked in hospitality or retail at some point for themselves. But one of the exciting things I did since I was very young, I was always done in the summer. I think when I was 15 or 16, I was handing out leaflets to an events company. It was hosting that the biggest names or biggest stars from the Arab world, like from Saudi Arabia, and they'd come here to the UK and do the concerts, and they were very fancy, high end in the sort of done in Park Lane and by Marble Arch, like one of the fancy hotels there, and I was always involved in that, and it sort of grew in it year by year, and sort of I was managing the entire operation really like towards the end when I was at 19. So I was sorting out all flights for people, sorting out accommodation and transportation, a lot of these things when I was very young, and managing people to hand out leaflets. So it was very sort of confident boosting for me, and I think I was the man, I was the guy. And then I went to university, did a few things while I was there, but just to sort of support myself. But I think at the time of university, I did my degree and graduated during the pandemic. Worked as a prison officer for a year. That was that was an exciting year. Okay. Interesting, very interesting. So many stories from that, and I think it's something that when I tell most people, they go like, "What?" That you don't expect it, but someone's got to do the job, and I'm glad I got the experience. What's it like in the real prison? So I've got my own reference to it. It's not just the movies. It's not just hearing from people or hearsay in general about the whole thing. So to experience it firsthand was quite amazing. And then I went on to my current role, where I've been in for 2 years as a data analyst. So yeah, that was a career shift, I'd say.
Real career shift. Wow. So how are you enjoying that now?
I am sort of, I think it took me a little while to adjust from, being in and out of literally in and out of prison to kind of go and work at a desk job and sort of enter the corporate world, and to see what's it like to sit at a desk and just do their job and people leave you alone. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? I sort of, I think I put myself out of my comfort zone because I wasn't very confident in my skills with the sort of tools that you need to use as a data analyst and be able to handle bigger data, or understand data in general and the storage and the size, everything that it comes with, and using the programs. So it took me a little while to settle in, but I think I'm glad I had some good colleagues to sort of guide me through and to teach me whatever they know. And through experience and time, I've sort of progressed and I've get bigger tasks and more things to do. I've been there for 2 years now, so I'm like, I feel like I've just been there for ages. I feel like this is the place where I've sort of settled, but I'm always looking at a next step or a next trinity. So I'm doing more qualifications and more things to kind of enhance my career or push it further. And just on this point, I think a lot of people tell you that work hard, you get your degree, and then you can relax. And I think that is the biggest lie I've heard. You always got to work. You've always got to do that. So just embrace it and enjoy it. So yeah.
That's such good advice. I mean, it is non-stop learning, isn't it? You always can get better, and you can always learn something else. And yeah, just like you said, you just got to enjoy the moments as you go along that ride. Otherwise, you'll always be trying to reach something you're never going to get to.
Literally, yeah.
And so, as we sort of winding this down now, what's next? What are some of the goals that you've got? What are some of the things you still want to do? What's next in your life?
Funnily enough, I think I've been working on this over a podcast for a little while as well myself, and I've bought a few equipment. I've tried it out, and I think I'm gonna do it in the next few months. I think the idea of putting myself out of my comfort zone and doing something that I generally want to do. I always felt very uncomfortable with the whole idea of putting the camera in and sitting there recording yourself talking. I felt it was quite pretentious. It's not natural or whatever. Yeah. But it's something that I wanted to do so much because I have come across so many people that have made a difference in my life, and so many people that I have gained as friends or feel towards them as family, such as yourself, for example, someone I've met so long ago that no matter how busy we get, whatever, whenever we talk, it's always you've got this connection, this sort of relationship that is always gonna stay there, and I think it's gonna give me a good opportunity to keep that alive and to make sense of my world, I think. So yeah, I think the next steps is sort of looking at whether I want to continue in this industry or this career, or take a different approach. And I think that's sort of another step that is going to be quite big, to sort of step out of a career and seek something else or learn something new from scratch. And you feel like you set yourself back, and you've always got these things of like, I want to settle down or buy a house or buy a car or do this or do that. So you end up sometimes kind of going in the direction where you feel like this is where I need to achieve my goals. Where I think sometimes your goal is actually finding the thing that you're going to be good at, passionate about, and it makes you, I think it allows you to achieve more things. So I'm trying to find that and sort of experience more and go from there, really.
Makes perfect sense, and I love it. I love it. So you're going to give us a little bit of a hint what this podcast could be about, or
Yeah.
Just yeah.
You could do that. I think so. The podcast, I think I'm going to name it Freshie, or Freshie's podcast. I think the name is it's something that I heard here in the UK. I think it's the same as Fresh Out of the Boat for so many people to understand that. The idea of the podcast is generally talking about fitting in. So moving from a different country to the UK and fitting sort of to be a Londoner, that is one thing. And so many people that have been born here or moved to a different place or go to university or at work or this and that, everyone is trying to fit in somehow. And I would love to understand everyone's sort of logic behind their judgment of things and why they're passionate about something, why they're committing to one thing, why are these people that go on social media presenting their work, or people that do the gym 24/7 commitment, why do you have this interest, why do you want to fit in that? And I think this is going to be the idea of it.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And I mean, you said a few things there that I have to just touch on quickly. I mean, we're in the era of transferable skills rather than being stuck in one career for your whole life, like, you know, our parents may have done or our grandparents may have done, which is, you know, that was kind of how it worked. And now, you know, you've already articulated it so well that, you know, you can learn some key skills through your life, and then those are so easily transferable into any industry or so many different industries and sectors. So you can move around much more easily, and it's a done thing to do that when previously, you know, moving around too much to different jobs and different careers was frowned upon. But it's almost encouraged, so, you know, more now to get all these different experiences and try new things and reach out and, you know, and work all over the world necessarily. You don't have to be restricted to one place. So, I mean, you're in such an exciting era, and you've shared so many nice stories and articulated things so well now, and you know, absolutely love chatting to you and keeping up, you know, getting up to date with you, Joe. So thank you so much. I guess I just want to finish off. Can you give 2 sets of advice or really for students that are about to go into their GCSE year and you know, that whole year ahead that they've got to go through. So maybe you've got some advice for them. And then secondly, you know, once they've finished the GCSE year and then navigating the next few years of their life, maybe you've got some tips and advice for navigating, you know, that next stage of stresses.
Okay, yeah. I've always found this idea of giving a generic advice a bit stressful. It's stressful, maybe not the first word, but I think I know people are trying to sound wise, and I think when you're saying this, I'm trying to formulate an opinion or an answer in my head, and I think I'm always I was thinking of how I sound as I say this advice, but yeah, I think what I would say to the students, I think, approaching their GCSEs or about to embark on this journey is that it could be scary at times. It could be one of the things that, you know, the people, a lot of people put emphasis on it, that it determines, you know, the rest of your life, and you have to get good GCSEs to achieve this or that. And then you always have the counter argument of the, you know, A, B, and C people that have achieved all these things without a degree, so don't worry about this, you know, life is different. I think I would just say to everyone that is approaching this is to not stress too much about this, just focus on your learning and try to actually learn the maths, try to learn the science, learn whatever subjects that you do, and try to understand what it is that you can actually learn from it, what the information that you could keep and how you could apply it. I think this is the thing that you benefit from the most. So don't worry too much about the grades. I think they're very important, and try working towards achieving the best that you can. But your main goal should be learning, literally just learning.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, I think the other one is, you know, afterwards, and what you get to do after is, I think, explore as many opportunities as you can. Look at different options. Look at things that you you think are not for you, just look at them, give it a look. Don't say no without investing time and looking something yourself. Because a lot of times, like I've said, that I've shown you for the LinkedIn, to me it sounded like a work experience thing, and couldn't be asked for it. I didn't understand what it was, and now I look back at it, I'm like, oh, I should have done that. It would have helped a lot. So yeah, I think whenever opportunity comes across your way, try to take advantage of it, but also remember that you can be a person that would offer opportunity to someone else. So whenever that comes your way, don't be stingy with offering your lending a hand to someone else when you're in a position that you can.
Brilliant. No, I love it, Joe. Thank you so much. Really been amazing chatting to you and catching up. Thanks so much for your time today. To everyone watching, you've been listening to Roger from One Degree and Joseph, a One Degree student from 2015. This has been episode 1 of One Degree Alumni Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.